All right, let's dive into a really fascinating and pretty radical idea called the Projection Codex. It starts with a simple question that has some seriously profound implications. What if, what if our reality isn't the real thing? Yeah, that's the core question we're wrestling with today. What if our entire four-dimensional universe, everything you see, everything you are, is just a projection? Kind of like a complex shadow being cast from a much higher fifth dimension. So, here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll explore this whole 5D projection idea. Then, we'll get into the universe's so-called source code. After that, we'll look at the 5 key rules that make it all work, see how this framework tries to solve some huge cosmic mysteries, and check out its wild new origin story for the universe. And finally, we'll step back and ask, what does this even mean for reality? Okay, let's get right into it. Section 1, a 5D reality projection. This is where we lay the groundwork for this whole framework that, honestly, tries to reimagine everything we think we know. Now, it's really, really important to keep in mind, this is a speculative model. It's a thought experiment. We are not saying this is how reality actually works. What we're doing is just exploring this fascinating attempt to see if our universe could, just maybe, be derived from a completely different set of principles than we're used to. So you're probably wondering, how would a projection like this even begin to work? Well, before we can get to the how, we have to understand the what. We need to look at its source code, the fundamental building blocks that this whole reality would be made of. First off, when this model says fifth dimension, it doesn't mean another direction you can point to, like up, down, left, or right. Forget that. Instead, imagine a timeless, non-physical realm of pure potential, a state where every single possible configuration of our universe already exists, all at once, frozen at absolute zero. It's not a place. It's the source of all places. Okay, so if the fifth dimension is this huge ocean of possibility, what's the water made of? The model calls it S-energy. You can think of it as the raw stuff of existence itself. It's this fundamental seamless fabric. And in this view, our whole universe is just one single current flowing out of that infinite, timeless ocean. And this is where it gets really interesting. This is the engine that drives the whole framework, the 5 projection rules. Think of these as the fundamental laws of physics for a universe that's being, well, for lack of a better word, rendered into existence. So, the Codex lays out these 5 core rules. You've got logical non-contradiction, minimal complexity path, all the way to hydraulic balance. I know, the names sound pretty abstract, maybe even a little strange, but each one has a very specific job to do in shaping our reality, as you're about to see. Okay, now this is the core claim of the whole idea, that our laws of physics, the things we think are so fundamental, aren't fundamental at all. They just emerge from these 5 simple projection rules. So take a look at rule number 3, the finite resolution constraint. This basically says reality has a pixel limit. You know, like a computer screen has a maximum resolution. Well, this rule suggests the universe does too. And this could be the real reason for Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, that famous law that says you can't know a particle's exact position and momentum at the same time. In this model, it's not some deep quantum mystery. It's just the universe literally can't render that much information in one spot. It's an incredible thought, right? That our physical laws might just be byproducts of an information rendering process. So once you have those rules in place, you get to the big payoff. This is how the framework tries to solve some of the absolute biggest puzzles in all of cosmology. Things like dark matter and dark energy. Let's start with dark matter. The standard model says it's some kind of unknown particle we just can't find. But this framework suggests something totally different. It says dark matter is actually a kind of gravitational shadow being cast from the 5th dimension. This S-matter isn't made of particles we could ever hope to bump into, but it still bends space-time, which would perfectly explain all that extra gravity we see holding galaxies together. And what about dark energy, the mysterious force pushing the universe apart? Well, the Codex replaces it with what it calls a hydraulic effect. Just picture that S-energy we talked about, constantly flowing from the 5th dimension and filling up the empty voids of our universe. The steady inflow would act like a cosmic pressure, pushing space-time itself apart and causing that accelerated expansion. Now this is a real mind-bender. We all know black holes are supposed to have a singularity at their center, a point of infinite density where physics just stops working. This model says nope, no infinities. Instead, you have resolution points. The idea is that when matter gets too dense, it basically overloads the system. It exceeds the projection's complexity limit, and the whole thing crashes, like a computer program. But the information isn't destroyed. It just gets reverted back to its original, timeless 5D state. So a black hole isn't an endpoint. It's an interface back to the source. All right, if you thought that was wild, get ready for maybe the most radical claim in this whole framework. Section 5, a new origin story. One that suggests the universe had a cold start, not a hot Big Bang. Look, we all know the standard story, right? The hot Big Bang, the universe starts as an infinitely hot, dense point, and it's been cooling down and expanding ever since, with little things clumping together to form bigger things. Well, this cold start inversion flips that entire script on its head. It says the universe actually began as a cold phase transition out of that absolute 5D state, and it's been heating up over time. And, this is crucial, structure formed from the top down. So what on earth does top-down formation mean? Well, in this model, right at the very beginning of time, the very first things to appear weren't tiny particles, but massive structures, like the cores of entire superclusters of galaxies. And from those initial giant seeds, all other structure then cascaded downwards. Galaxies, stars, planets, they all formed inside this pre-existing cosmic scaffolding. It's a total reversal of how we usually think about the evolution of the universe. Which brings us all the way to our final question. After all this, what is reality then? Let's quickly wrap up the key takeaways from the Projection Codex. So what does it all add up to? It's a completely different picture of everything. A picture where our universe is just a rendering of information from a higher, timeless dimension, where our cherished laws of physics are just the operating rules of that rendering, where huge cosmic mysteries like dark matter are just artifacts of the projection process itself, and where our entire cosmos was born cold, with the biggest things forming first. It is, to put it mildly, a completely different way of seeing, well, everything. And so, that leaves us with one last massive question to think about. If our universe really is just a rendering, then what is truly real? Is it the projected world we can touch and see and experience every day? Or is it the source code, the underlying reality that we can never, ever directly see? That's definitely something to chew on.